So today I'm going to show you how to make my Tess bouquet, or bouquet, however you like to say it. She is basically 7 of my wild roses decorated with leaves and twine, and it's just a lovely, lovely kind of rustic style, vintage style arrangement. And the handpiece is bound in twine. And I've added 2 lengths of ribbon. So the basic arrangement is relatively easy. The roses themselves are quite simple to make. The fiddly bit is the twine and the leaves and assembling it all. But if you have any questions at all, pop them in the comments below, or you can catch up with me on Instagram and I will get back to you as soon as I can, or as soon as I see them. Right, so the equipment that you will need to make this bouquet is, in addition to your old book, you will need to have some regular kitchen foil. You will need to have a glue stick and some high-tack glue. You will need to have some florist tape and some twine. This is just regular garden twine. You will need some scissors and a glue gun, and you'll also need some ribbon. I'm going to use 2 lengths of trailing ribbon on this bouquet. I'm going to use white and peach. And you will also need a sheet of coloured paper for the leaves. I'm going to use this soft green, and you can use any colour that you want, any colour at all. You can even have peach leaves or white leaves, or I always make them with green. So I've got a sheet of A4 paper for that. In addition, you'll also need the leaf template, which is my standard sized leaf. And you can either download the template for that from the link in the video description, or there's also a link in the video description for you to draw it yourself, and that's called No Printer, No Problem. You'll also need some wire. This is a very thin wire, but it's flexible, but yeah, it does hold its shape, it does bounce back. There's a word for that and I can't think what it is off the top of my head, but yes, you want some thin wire to make the leaves. So the first thing you'll need to do is to roll off about 20 to 22 centimetres from your kitchen foil. And then to make the stem, what you need to do is to fold the kitchen foil, and oh, I must just point out, it doesn't matter if it's not straight, and it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, it's fine. You just need to fold it 3 times in half, lengthways. And then take it at one end and just scrunch it in. And roll it into a stem shape. So these stems are quite flexible and they're really ideal for making the wedding bouquets. I have discussed why I prefer the foil stems in one of my videos, and at this point I can't remember which one. Anyway, you will need to make 7 of these stems. So you will need to make 7 of these stems, and in true Blue Peter fashion, here's some I prepared earlier. Right, so we'll pop those to one side for now anyway. The next thing that we need to do is to prepare the flowers themselves. And to do this, you simply need to take 4 pages from your book And because we're making 7 roses, 1, 2, 3, 6. I'm not sure we need 7 lots of 4 because some of them we reuse. But we'll figure that out as we get there. So I'm only going to show you how to make one of these roses. And then if you want to make more, you can use the timestamps in the video description to go back and re-look at this stage. So I'll show you how to make one of the flower heads. And if you have seen my wild rose tutorial or my rustic buttonhole tutorial, this process is very similar. So if you know how to do this and you're quite happy with making the roses, you can use the timestamps to skip to the part of the video that you do need to watch. So we'll take one of the book pages and we will simply fold it up from the bottom corner, and what we want to do is align the text on the margins, not the edges of the page. Make some room. So we have 4 triangles, and what we want to do is take one of them, and with the long side to the left hand side we want to fold it up so that the text aligns again, and then simply fold it again just into a perfect triangle. And then we simply need to cut around and make a petal shape. And if there's any sharp bits, I will just smooth those down. And I'll also cut a few millimeters off the bottom. And what you have is a lovely little flower shape. So we want to do this for all of the other sheets of paper. So we have 4 flower shapes. And if we take one of them and we want to cut off one of the petals along the fold, and place the large one to the left and the small one to the right. And on the next flower shape we want to cut off 2 petals, and on the next flower shape we want to cut off 3 petals, and on this last one we want to cut off 4. We're basically cutting it in half, and we'll save one of these for the other roses that we have to make. So we'll get all the cutting out of the way to start with, and what we want to do is we want to fold our sheet of A4 so that the leaf template just fits nicely on the folded part. I've got that brown bit as contrast. And then we want, so we need 6 pairs of the leaf shapes. So I'll just cut that there, and it's easier to see. And then I will simply cut around my leaf template 6 times so that we've got 12 individual leaves. There'll be just enough if you're using an A4 sheet to cut all 6 leaves. So I think that's all of our cutting done now. We've got all of our petals cut and we've got all of our leaves cut. So I'm going to crack on and make the other roses, and then in a blink of an eye I'll come back with all the flowers made. So we'll take our glue stick, and what we want to do is glue one of the edge petals on the large shape and then wrap round the other end and place the petal on top of the glued petal, and it gives us a nice raised open flower shape. And we do the same for the next one, and the next one. Now this one has not much text on this section, so I'm going to flip it over because I want the text on the inside. And we keep going. So on this one with just 2 petals, we want to fold one of the petals, the edge in towards the fold in the middle. Put some glue on the one we're not folding, and it makes a little cone shape or a trumpet shape. I've been trying to figure out what else I can call this, but that's basically it, isn't it? And the single petal, what we want to do is we want to roll it to make a tiny little straw shape. And that's just a millimetre or 2 in thickness to bring this up so it focuses. And then I just normally give it a little twist on the end. And then I take my high-tack glue and I'll put some glue around the bottom few centimetres of the straw shape. I'll pick up the cone shape, open it up, push the straw shape inside, and it will just poke out the bottom just a tiny bit. And then on the bottom of the cone shape, we'll put a bit of PVA glue on both sides, again just on the lower few centimetres, and then we'll slot it into the next petal shape along, and it will just poke out the bottom. And then we'll take the next one, bit of glue around the edges, pop it in. And then what I do at this stage is I normally pop it down and put the glue in the centre, and then just slot these on top. And then you've got your rose shape all ready to go. So you need to make 7 of these rose heads to make the Tess bouquet, or bouquet, however you want to pronounce it. So by the power of video, I've made all the 7 roses that we need to make. So I'm just going to prepare the leaves now. So what I want to do is cut about 30 centimetres of wire, and I want to cut 3 lengths. And they're in their pairs, so I will put one above and one below. And then on the lower leaves I will put some high-tack glue, if it will come out, because I'm running low. And I'll just place it around the edges and up the centre of all of the leaves on the bottom row. And I'll simply take the wire and place it down the centre of the first leaf, leaving about 1.5 centimetres to 2 centimetres at the top. I will press down firmly with its pair, and then I'll take an old tea towel and just hold it at the bottom and press really firmly, just to take off any excess glue from the edges and to help put the imprint down the centre of the leaf. And on the other end of the wire I will place the other leaf. So what we have is a leaf on either end of the wire. And we'll just do the same for the others. So we have all the leaves on the wire, and what I'll do now is, if there is any overhang, I'll just trim them up. And then I'll cut a few little notches down the edge of the leaf. Just by putting a couple of snips at an angle with your scissors, and I'll usually put 3 or 4 on each side. So continue to do that for all of the other leaves. And then I'll simply fold the leaves, and then, because this wire is thin enough to cut with scissors, I will just separate the leaves into their own individual stems. So now we're going to make some twine loops. Now I would normally place the string, the end of the string, on my finger like that, and spread my fingers, and that's about 7 or 8 centimetres, and I'll wrap the twine around 3 times, and then trim the twine, hold it all together, put a little bit of high-tack glue around the bottom of the twine, and take your florist tape and just put a little bit on there, just to hold everything in place. And we want to make 6 of these loops. So do heat up your glue gun at this point. I've got some more glue there in case I need it. And trying to get organised. we will take our stems that we prepared earlier, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the glue gun by putting a little bit of the hot glue on the foil and then pressing it firmly onto the bit that's sticking out at the bottom here, like so. And my glue gun doesn't quite reach to the camera, so I have to do this bit off the camera to glue it, but yeah. Bit of glue gun, or glue from the glue gun on the end, and simply pop the flower head in place. Let the glue dry, and then I'm just going to put a little bit more glue just around on the bits where there isn't any glue around the top here, just to make sure that this flower head does not fall off. So I've popped quite a bit of glue on there, but it's all around the stem and all around the flower. That's going to hold everything in place really well. And we just need to do that for each of the flower heads and stems. So once all of the flower heads have been attached to the stems, and what we need to do is to clear up a bit, I suppose, attach one leaf and one ribbon loop to 6 of the roses, and we want the centre rose not to have a loop or a leaf. So I normally, because sometimes these roses come out at different sizes, I do tend to look for the biggest rose to keep for the centre rose. So I think I'm going to use this one for the centre rose, and I'll put that to one side. And then we want to take our florist tape and making sure that all of the glue from the glue gun and the foil is covered, we want to wrap the florist tape at the underside of the flower head. Now I'll normally roll this down maybe 2 centimeters, and then I'll just check, because I want to have the loops to be poking out about 4 centimeters, 3 or 4 centimeters. So I'll take my loop and I will attach that with one twist of the florist tape, and then I'll take my leaf shape and I'll place it just to the side. The loops are there and the wire is here, and I want the leaf again to kind of point out or stick out about the same distance as the loops, and one twist of the florist tape, and then use the florist tape and just wind it down the stem about 15 centimeters. And that's the individual flower. So we'll do the same for all of these roses. Make sure that the stem and the glue is completely covered. Roll it down a couple of centimeters. Take your twine and attach, and take your stem, your leaf, just to this side of it and attach. Because the leaves are on wire, we can bend these however we'd like. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure that all of our flower stems are the same length. Now the length of the stems will excuse me, have an effect on the length of the handpiece. So what I'd normally do is I would just very quickly just assemble the flowers together with the one we haven't bound yet in the middle. I'm not worried about the positioning at the moment of the leaves so much, but I just want to arrange them so that they're all sitting at a nice height together. And once you're happy with the height, you can trim the stems. Now from the bend here, I usually measure about 14 centimetres. We don't want the handpiece too long. We want it just to be a good, lovely size. So what we need to do now is completely fully bind the whole of the stems. So I'll start with the one without any leaves. And you basically just need to wind it all the way down to the bottom, flip it over and go back on itself. And I'd normally go back up the stem a couple of centimetres. I usually pop a little bit of glue just to hold it all in place, because sometimes the florist tape can unravel. Now we have already put a part covering on these, but sometimes you get gaps, so I'm gonna double bind from here. When I'm using foil stems, I like to usually put a double bind in, especially on the top. So just carry on and add the florist tape completely to all of the stems. So there we have it, all of our lovely roses, and the next stage is simply to bind them with the twine to the stem. So we'll take the rose without any leaves or twine, and this is obviously our centre rose, and what we want to do is, with the stem of this one straight, we want to just kind of tilt out the stem of the ones with leaves on, just so it nestles and the petals just touch. Now, don't worry about being too precise at this point. You just want to kind of get them loosely aligned before we secure them in place. So if you've got them too squished together, the petals will not look so great. So you kind of want to kind of gently tease and bend the outer roses so that they're not squashing the centre rose, and just align them, make the last little bits of fine tuning, and then when you are completely happy with the positioning, take a bit of the florist tape and just bind them all together. Scissors. And you can still make minor adjustments at this stage. And yeah, I'm almost happy with that. We can adjust the leaves properly after we've bound it properly. Right, next step. So I'll put a little bit of glue, a few centimetres from the bottom of the stems. I'll unravel some twine, and then pointing the end of the twine towards me, I will wind it around until it catches over the thread, the loose end of the thread. And then all you need to do is wind the twine all the way up to here. So once you get to the top of the florist tape where we've bound them together, I'll cut a length off and wrap it around loosely, so I've got a loop, and I'll take the end and I'll pop it up through the loop and pull it tight. Very loose knot there, but if you pull it tight and you add a bit of glue, that will all hold nicely in place once it's dry. So the next stage is, of course, to add, I need to put that somewhere, to add the trailing ribbons. So you can have these ribbons as long or as short as you like. So I'll trim the ribbon about 120 centimetres, and for this one I'm going to use 2 different colours. And I'll make sure they're level, hold them in the middle, and we want to cover up this loose piece of twine, and I'll simply tie it in a loose knot and then I'll take the white ribbon which is on the outer side and tie it in a second knot. Now you can tie these ribbons in a bow if you prefer, or you can put a little embellishment of some kind here. But that's basically my Tess bouquet, and she works really well with the rustic buttonhole.